if you're a people pleaser, this is a really interesting double-edged sword, because I know this about you. If you're a people pleaser, you're a kind person, you're likely a sensitive person, you are a very heart-led person, you actually love to be in relation to other people and to see them engaging with you and happy and feeling good in themselves because you're doing, saying things that help them or please them. And that's a really nice feeling to have. And you have all these beautiful traits which naturally want to express as care and compassion and consideration for others. But the double-edged sword is that when we're actually running a habitual negative pattern of people-pleasing, which is not what I talked about before is lovely, good, healthy, positive trait. But people-pleasing is where you essentially abandon yourself while you do say or be things for other people that will please them. But here is the really wacky thing, is that it seems like we're doing it to please them, and we are, but subconsciously it's because we get something out of it and we need that something in order to feel good, okay, and safe. So it's this fascinating psychological, emotional loop that we run in. So the double-edged sword is this. If you are a people pleaser to the degree that it's actually harmful for you, you want to know this. You have some very beautiful soulful traits, characteristics, nature to your personality, which you will, if harnessed correctly, be your absolute shining star in the world. And those things are never to be forgotten about who you are. They are to be embraced and highlighted. However, they can't really shine when they are being expressed in a way to fill a gap within, which is, I don't feel something enough, good enough, low self-esteem, low self-worth, low self-confidence, not feeling safe, not feeling belonging, not loving myself, not accepting myself. And so we go out into the world and we seek to fill the gap inside of ourselves by pleasing others so that we can get what we need from them, their validation, their love, their acceptance, their praise, their acknowledgement, them telling us that we are good and valued and needed and wanted. And it's filling ourselves up on the inside from something outside of ourselves. When we're able to step back from that and give ourselves everything we need inside and not need it from other people, then we can go and please people for the fun of it. Then we can go and be our kind, compassionate, considerate, sensitive, beautiful, caring selves and be and do and say things around others that truly uplift and provide beauty and love in the lives of others. But we're not doing it because we need something back from them. We're not attaching into them or plugging an umbilical cord into them, trying to get something. By pleasing them, it gives us something back. We don't need that. We're just in our positive traits, in our beautiful self-expression as a soulful being, using those to the highest potentiality and giving ourselves everything we need from the inside. So if you're a people pleaser and it's running as a negative pattern and you are abandoning yourself, you need to know that there are two elements going on. There is actually an inherent nature in you that is really to be highlighted, embraced, and never left behind and never forgotten. And then there is an element of you that is trying to fill something up on the inside. And if we can just step you a couple of steps forward into filling that within for yourself, then you can just go shine and have fun with other people, and you will no longer need anything from them, such that if they are displeased, that's okay. And if they are pleased, that's okay. Because you're not responsible for them. You're filling yourself inside, and you have the freedom to be, do, say, and experience life in your own unique space and gifts. You're listening to Practical Spirituality with B, the podcast with spiritual advice for your everyday life, helping you align with your soul so you can live with purpose, fulfillment, and magic. I'm Bernadette Logue. You can call me B, and I'm excited to share this episode with you. So we're going to dive deeper into this topic of people pleasing to see it from different angles so that it will make it really clear for you, if you're doing this, how to interrupt it and how to stop it, okay? So that you can instead be in your own soulful zone and not be falling prey to what is a habitual learned pattern, right? So first of all, never judge yourself if you're a people pleaser and if you're trying to break the habit of people pleasing, because basically here's what happens. We're born into the world. We're here as souls on a journey. We all have challenges and life lessons to learn. That's why our soul came here. So there is something very powerful and remarkable available to you in any pattern that you run habitually that is not working for you. Most likely, if you've been running it for a long time and it's a repeating boomeranging challenge, then it is most likely a huge opportunity for you, for your soulful learning, healing and growth, for your life lessons. And when we're born into the world, we get conditioned from a very young age through our upbringing, our experiences, our education, and what we're exposed to. And as we are little people, just think about a tiny little baby, a toddler, a little wee one running around in this world trying to figure out what on earth this planet is about and how on earth are we meant to get by and be good and be safe and be loved and accepted. And as little people, we make up our minds about things and we take on beliefs and we take on fears, and they run us. They literally run our life and run our behaviors until we're old enough to wake up and realize that we can interrupt the original conditioning and free ourselves to live in a whole new paradigm and whole new patterns that work for us. So all of this happens before you're old enough to know it's happening, before you're old enough to choose for yourself. So there can be zero judgment upon that. Okay, so if you're a people pleaser and you're like, I want to break this habit, fabulous that you're here. No judgment on yourself. This is what occurs on this human ride called life. We develop these patterns, we wake up and we break them. And in doing so, by the way, not just the benefit of being free of it, but the benefit of you can just tick off a life lesson on your soul plan and purpose for having evolved through that, right? So when we talk about people pleasing, let's understand that we only ever do things to avoid pain or gain pleasure, right? So when you are seeking to please other people, that in itself is not a problem. Like, we don't just go, I like to please people and I like people to be happy and I like to do things for people. And, well, that's not negative. It's only negative when it doesn't work for you too, when you are excluded from the equation, when you lose yourself in the equation, when you abandon yourself in the equation, and when you are not even a consideration, and instead you morph yourself, chameleon yourself, put yourself aside, and you're no longer living what is true to you, you're living what is needed for others, and hoping that that is going to make you feel good, right? So that's where it becomes a problem. Interestingly, I'm just riffing this, I'm just ad-libbing off the cuff. This is not planned. But interestingly, I'm just thinking to myself, as these words are coming out, that, you know, wouldn't it be ironic if you woke up one day as a people pleaser and you realize that all the people that you try really hard to please don't really care and they don't want you to please them? And that you're trying and working really hard to please people when in fact they're just doing their own gig and living their own life. And if you didn't do that, it wouldn't make any difference. But because we live inside our own paradigms, like your reality inside your mind, what you call life is not life. It's your version of life. It's your reality, and it's all happening inside the loop of your mind, belief, thoughts, and your feelings in your body and your nervous system. And we're living on the same planet, but my reality is different to yours, is different to your neighbors, is different from your mother's or your children or your friends. Because we're all going on inside our own realities, inside our own minds, based on our conditioned beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and experiences over our lifetime today. So it really makes you stop and go, oh, wow. Wow, there's a huge opportunity for me to stand back here. And the other interesting thing about people pleasing is it's very externally focused. So it's like, well, I'm doing this people pleasing thing and I'm looking at these people in my life and I'm always seeking to please them and I'm looking outward. I'm externally focused, when in fact, what we know about people pleasing is it's entirely an internal thing. It's an internal reality, it's an internal job, it's an internal challenge, and it's an internal solution. And so you say to yourself, what am I avoiding and what am I trying to gain? What pain am I avoiding and what pleasure am I trying to gain if these are the drivers that are creating and causing this pattern? And usually what's happening is we are looking like we're trying to please others, and at a conscious level, that's what we think we're doing. So we're trying to please others because that gives us something we don't feel inside. It gives us validation, sense of purpose, praise, recognition, approval. We get to avoid rejection, judgment, the displeasure of others. So we're avoiding certain things and we're gaining certain things. But underneath what's really going on, which is super interesting, is that while we're trying to serve and please others to make ourselves feel good and avoid these rejections and judgments and gain the pleasure and praise and approval, what we're really trying to do is serve ourselves. Like, that is the beautiful and painful truth about it, because what we're trying to do is feel okay. When you're people pleasing from a habitual loop and it's a negative one where you're abandoning yourself, you're trying to serve yourself. And what I mean by that is you're trying to serve up to yourself better feelings. Feeling not enough, feeling low worth, feeling unseen, feeling unaccepted, feeling fearful of rejection, of being alone, feeling unsafe. And so the behaviors that we run in the world to avoid pain and gain pleasure are to try to adjust our feeling state. And the beautiful thing is you don't need anybody to adjust your feeling state. In fact, it's much easier to adjust your feeling state if you don't connect it with other people, because other people are all on their own gig doing all the things, right? You don't know what people are going to be like one day to the next. So putting your feeling state and the feedback from others as a barometer of your feeling state is a risky, dangerous place to put it. Because if someone gets out of bed on the wrong side of gets out of bed on the wrong side in the morning and they're having a bad day and you're a people pleaser, you're behind the game immediately and you can't control it because you've put your feelings, your validation and your praise and all the things that you want from people, you've put it in their hands, which you can't control. And it's a roller coaster of a ride emotionally to live that way. Now, where the people-pleasing thing becomes painful is this, and the reason I'm making this episode is because it's becoming blatantly evident to me that I have a very specific community, very beautiful community of people, and the more time goes on, the more this very particular type and nature of person gravitates into my world. Most of the people that I support in their soul journey, their plan, their purpose, coming home to themselves, standing up and shining brightly in the world, whether it's in the spiritual side or my transformation life coaching around psycho-spiritual development and evolution, are women. They are typically between 40 and 75 years old, and they typically are loving, conscientious, empathic, sensitive, intelligent, insightful, intuitive, and often a challenge is this. All of those gifts get a little bit boxed up and tied up earlier in life, and so some patterns develop because those gifts can't shine as brightly into being too concerned about what other people think. People pleasing is one of the big patterns that comes out from that, particularly when there's low confidence, low self-worth, low self-esteem, which is not who you were born as. Those are things that you experience because of earlier events in life and conditioning, okay? So if you're resonating with any of that, the challenges that you experience were not with you when you were born. They are experiences and conditioning development over time, and your job is to learn how to stand up, step up and stand up into courage and into your soulful self, to come to a new relationship with yourself where you don't have to run these patterns anymore. And, when we talk about people pleasing and abandoning yourself, That's where the real problem lies. I am going to deny my feelings. I'm going to deny my needs. I'm going to deny use of my time in ways that really matter to me. I'm not going to make the choices that are intuitively right for me because I am pleasing others, because I am focusing outward, because I don't feel in myself whole and strong in my confidence enough to put myself in the equation. And when we don't feel those ways, we please others to feel that way. So now they get put ahead of us, and then we look for their reaction response in order to feel good and okay, right? And it becomes this loop that we run. So we'll go through some questions to sort of break this down. But, the opposite of abandoning yourself is essentially what is coming home to yourself. So in Soul Odyssey, my program, in my book, Your Soul Journey Simplified, and my coaching one-on-one with people, it's really all about waking up inside this dream of life to the divine nature of your soulful, powerful self and coming home to yourself. Coming home to all your gifts and talents and strengths and traits. Coming home to drop the baggage. Undoing, not adding to you, undoing. Letting go of all the stuff that is not true and is not you, so that you can stand in your soulful self. And when we're doing people pleasing, we've got baggage that does not belong to us, that says I must please other people because that way I will avoid XYZ or gain XYZ to make me feel better, to fill me up. You don't need filling up because there's nothing inside missing. But it feels like it is because somewhere along the way, our mind got made up. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I'm missing this. If I can just keep others happy, then I will feel better. But as a people pleaser, you might have noticed that doesn't work because it's never enough to fill you up because there is no gap inside you in the first place. And so it's actually nothing about other people, and it's entirely about turning back toward yourself. Turning to yourself, seeing yourself for who you really are, not the conditioned beliefs, thoughts, and feelings that have been running in a loop. Honouring who you really are and learning how to stand in that and be comfortable in your own skin. And when you do that, you can go out and do lovely things for other people and do things that please people, not because you need anything from it, not because you're trying to avoid anything, not because you're trying to gain anything, just because you're being your shining, beautiful self. And that's what you do when you're fully expressed as your soulful self. And so the way you are in the world doesn't necessarily change, but the motivators and drivers that create it to be a problem, that changes. And instead of abandoning yourself, you're at home in yourself. And then you can still do whatever you want in the world. But the key is you are in the equation. You are not excluded from the equation when it comes to making choices, choosing, practically speaking, when we are caught in these kind of loops, we stay in jobs way too long that we don't really want to be in. We stay in relationships way too long that aren't healthy and aren't where we want to be. We put off our goals and dreams because we're putting other people ahead of us, friends, family, children, partner, whatever. Instead of thinking creatively, I wonder if it's actually valid for me to be included in the equation now. Is it possible for everybody to have needs met, voices heard, be seen, be accepted, be loved, be acknowledged, and have ability for self-expression, where it isn't like an order of priorities or a hierarchy or an order of events where I typically come at the bottom of the list or last in the line? And there's so many things whirling in my mind as I'm recording this for you about all the years I've been helping people with challenges like this, where there's I can't because it's not possible, because if I did that then, and all of this, and it's all conditioning. It's all conditioning. And then the justification and the self-judgment and the it's selfish and it's not right and I can't because, and it's just labeling and burdensome, and it just adds more and more on top of the equation. And I really love the idea in evolution and spiritual personal development, whatever you want to call it. I just love the idea of just drop it all like a hot cake and stand back. Like throw your hands up in the air and stand back, like take a step back from your whole life, from all of your past, from all the stuff that you think is a problem. And usually what's going on is there's only a couple of things that need an adjustment, and they're typically always inside of you. And those things will usually have a dramatic impact on everything else in your life and make everything else easier. And when it comes to people pleasing, if you don't understand the roots of it, then it's really hard to break the pattern. You've got to be able to see yourself objectively, because the pattern and the process of needing to please people to feel okay starts a lot earlier than you might think. And it's not even necessary to pinpoint the exact root of it, and it is possible most often to find that. And it can be something that seems so subtle and so insignificant that sets it off originally. It's not actually necessary to know that, but it is important to logically understand why you're doing it, because here is the deal. Your soulful self is not doing it. It's your conditioned, habitual patterns in your mind and emotional system that are running it. And that's where we realize that as adults, quite often we're just a whole lot of children, conditioned children, running around inside adult bodies, and our child selves are running the show, or our mind emotional selves are running the show. And that's why it can feel like difficult to break patterns as an adult, because in a nanosecond you get triggered and your mind emotional self takes over and you run a habit. And then you're like, I can't believe I just did that all over again. And so it's just creating enough space to understand and see it objectively. And then actually what it's about is less about trying hard to break the pattern in practice in your daily life with other people, in terms of breaking this people-pleasing pattern. You actually need to step back and you need to develop a really robust relationship with yourself. Because when you do that, you are like set up like gold for interacting with other people, to make it so much easier for you to not run that pattern and to develop a new healthy way of knowing your yes and knowing your no, saying what you need, having your voice, not being afraid of conflict, not being afraid of having boundaries. Because you've stepped back and you're no longer telling yourself falsities inside your mind and suffering under heavy emotions from the past that had you doing that in the first place. So I want you to think about it like this. If you go out and try to break the pattern of people pleasing, but you're running a pattern that is deeply ingrained, then it's like gunning the engine on your car to try to progress yourself to a higher level of consciousness while handbraking yourself at the same time. So instead, take the handbrake off and nourish yourself internally, and then move forward without resistance. So I'm going to ask you some questions to support you if this is the kind of pattern that you're in, so that you can just do some self-reflection, which is really helpful. So when I am pleasing other people, you want to grab a pen and paper. You can pause this if you need to. Why do I need to do that? Simple question. Immediate answer that comes up, pop it in your journal. Why do I need to please other people? What am I trying to avoid happening by pleasing them? Another way to say that is, if I please them, then I won't have to deal with. If I please them, then I'm safe from. What do I gain if I please people? By pleasing people, I get to feel. Insert. What is the consequence if I don't go out of my way to please someone? What do I fear that I will lose if I do not please a particular person? Now I'm going to ask you this. I kind of know the answer to this already, but if you're a people pleaser, but that's okay. It's a rhetorical and it's to help you see this clearly. Is it possible for you to be in relationship with other people and not do anything for them? So just be yourself, be in your own zone. They're over there doing their thing. Can you just be in relation to other people and know that you are accepted, loved, valued, bonded, connected, supported, valuable, and safe, just being you, irrespective of what you say and do. You know, one of the other things that often happens with people pleasing is that if you spend your life not feeling something enough inside, and you want to avoid conflict with other people because you're sensitive, empathic, you know, loving and caring, and conflict feels just like, it feels like pain all over. So you want to avoid that, right? And so pleasing people means you avoid conflict. But if you're simultaneously on a double header of low self-worth, low self-confidence, and so people pleasing also has a double benefit that people praise you or validate you, or they will say nice things to you, and you get to feel loved and accepted because they've said or done those things. So then you're really filling yourself up in two ways through people pleasing. Then, you know what actually can happen over time is that we create a third problem. And that's why this pattern is so painful for people, is that then over time you become resentful because you've abandoned yourself. So you're actually angry at yourself, but it comes out because we protect ourselves, because we're designed as primitive creatures to protect ourselves from painful truths. Then we don't walk around going, I'm angry at myself. We go around saying, I'm angry at them. I'm angry at my parents, my children, my partner, my friends, my boss. I'm angry at them because I do everything for them and they do nothing for me. And I go out of my way for them and nobody sees or hears me or cares what I want. And on it goes. And that may be true. We may be in a very unhealthy relationship or an unhealthy job or an unhealthy friendship. And actually, we would be far better out of it. But sometimes it's not unhealthy, and it's not that people are not caring or seeing or accepting. It's just that we're not speaking out. We are doing everything, pleasing everybody, keeping silent inside, abandoning ourselves inside, putting a smile on, and then building up volcanically with resentment inside that we've abandoned ourselves and we don't know who we are, and we're tired and exhausted of serving and pleasing others, and we project that toward them when really we're upset with ourselves. And sometimes the people in our lives don't even realize what's going on because we can keep it so pleasant and nice and loving on the surface, but underneath be really upset. And, you know, not everyone is super self-aware or able to read other people. And so some people may not even realize that's how you feel. And so while this sounds like a lot, it's actually not difficult to unpick if you just step back from it and realize it's an inside job and it's a relationship with yourself job. You want to stand back and say, I am a soulful being. I have an innate soulful gifts and talents, urges, yearnings, and desires, and life lessons to learn. And this is one of my life lessons. And I'm going to learn it. So I need to develop a relationship with my true self and come to understand that I am whole. I am whole and complete right now inside myself and always have been. I need nothing from others, though I love to receive because it is joyous human connection, but I do not need it to survive. When it is not there, I'm not gasping for air. I'm not avoiding anything and I'm not trying to gain anything. I am just standing here solidly anchored in my soulful self, beaming and shining, knowing my enoughness. So it is a job of coming home to yourself. And when you do that, the people pleasing becomes a lot easier to deal with and starts to drop away. And, you know, sometimes we're dealing with people pleasing at the level of, well, I need to learn to communicate and I need to learn how to say no and I need to set boundaries. But we're doing that from a position of still not being in a healthy state inside of ourselves. And that's really painful. It's really hard for someone in people pleasing to say no when they don't feel good enough, because that sounds like I'm going to say no, someone's going to be displeased, and it is going to be the most painful trigger into the wound of my I am not enoughness. So instead we focus on the real roots of this issue. Get you home to your soulful self. Have you elevate in that, and then you're able to interact with your relationships, your partner, your intimate partner, your children, your parents, your family, your friends, your workplace, from this new true you. who is an empowered being, who is not all about yourself. You are all about yourself and others, and you know how to balance it all with grace. So if this sounds useful to you, it sounds like it is resonant with where you're at and you want more help with this, you can come and join my program, Soul Odyssey. We have amazing women in the community from all over the world, and often going through really similar things and really rising and finding amazing amazing new relationship with themselves where these kind of issues start to drop away. And also at the time of recording this in February, I believe this episode's going to come out on the 11th, I have spaces available for private one-on-one coaching. So you can email to reach out to me, support@bernadettelogue.com with the subject line courage, and I will send you all the details for private one-on-one coaching for a 1-month package where I will support you to break free of this loop in all the ways that I've just described to you in this episode. So if that interests you, support@bernadettelogue.com, subject line courage. And in that coaching package, we will meet weekly on Zoom. You'll get post-session comprehensive follow-up action plans to implement, and there will be unlimited email support from me between sessions throughout the whole month so that we can stay in close contact to help you integrate everything that we're doing together through this coaching experience. So reach out to me. There are four spaces available at the time of recording this. I will send you back all the details, availability, how to get started, pricing, etc., so that you can see if it is resonant and aligned for you. And I'm looking forward to sharing the next episode with you. I'll see you again really soon. Thanks for listening to Practical Spirituality with Bea. I'll talk to you next episode for more spiritual advice for your everyday life, helping you align with your soul so you can live with purpose, fulfillment, and magic.